All right, it's that time to take a look at the papers, the stories making the rounds, making the headlines. We get analysis and your thoughts and contributions as well, because you're tuned into Freshly Pressed on the Smooth Breakfast on Smooth 98.1. This is your love music, love live station. 31 minutes past 7 a.m. on the 7th of April, 2025. It's a beautiful money making Monday, looking like it's going to be a great one. But I do know it's going to be a great one on the show this morning, an interactive session as always. So please do well to join us on WhatsApp. That's 0809 444 0981. 0809 444 0981. That is the WhatsApp number. Share your messages with us, your thoughts on the stories. You can also tune in on YouTube if an audiovisual is something you would prefer. We've got you covered. Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Smooth 981 FM Lagos. That is the YouTube handle for you to join us, and leave your comments in the chat section, and I'll get to them as the show gets along. It's a Monday, so you know that AB, Bozimo, and of course, Mr. C are joining me for analysis. Good morning to you, gentlemen.
Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Mr. C, and good morning to the marvelous money-making people of Lagos and around the world.
Good morning, AB. Good morning, Naya. Good morning, Lagos.
All right. Good morning to you once again. Hope you had a great weekend and looking forward to what's going to be a great week as well. And we're going to start our sojourn into the papers this morning. We're taking a look at a story coming out of the Daily Trust, has to do with the health sector, where it says the federal government has approved the establishment of 8,880 new primary healthcare centers across the country. Now, this is under the Comprehensive Health Sector Renewal Investment Initiative, according to Vice President Kashim Shettima. The VP disclosed this on Saturday during the commissioning of the Suleiman Adebola Adegunwa Trauma Center at the Olabisi Onabanjo University Teaching Hospital in Shagamu. Okay, 8,880 new primary healthcare centers across the country. I mean, I don't know if to say those are good numbers or not, or whether it's a great initiative or not, but we do know that in the health sector we have in Nigeria right now, we don't have enough of these primary healthcare centers, which is, should I say, at the level where everyone has access or should be having access to healthcare. But Mr. C, what are your thoughts on this particular story?
Okay, thank you, Ayo. So on Saturday, a notable industrialist from Ogun State apparently donated a trauma center, a fully equipped trauma center to the Onobisi Onabanjo University Teaching Hospital at Shagamu. And the vice president was present to commission the said trauma center. Now, it's always heartwarming to see certain individuals who have the resources give back to society. And this is something to be commended, because before now, there was no trauma center at that hospital, which I understand is located in the Shagamu area. Now, remember that the Shagamu interchange forms part of the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, and it reportedly accounts for about 41% of all traffic, and most of the accidents that take place, unfortunately, happen around that place. So kudos to the industrialists, and here's to hoping that that trauma center will be well maintained. Now, the vice president further took the opportunity to announce the establishment of 8,800 new primary health centers across the nation. Now, there are a number of questions that arise from that declaration. The existing primary healthcare centers, how many are being properly run? How many are being properly maintained? How many are properly equipped? How many are properly staffed? Because we know how many doctors have migrated from Nigeria within, say, the last 5-6 years. We're talking at least 5 to 10 or 12,000 doctors. Now, just last week, we took a story that Lagos State reportedly has about 8,000 doctors on its roll. Meanwhile, it needs about 30,000. So apart from the clear funding issues that I've identified, do we have the right numbers of doctors, nurses, and other support staff to man these proposed health centers? And the question is, why start off something new from the scratch if you fail to maintain the existing one? I know of a primary healthcare center around the Lafiaji area. It's been fully built, Ayo, and last I checked, not open, hopeless locked.
Till now.
So it begs the question, is this a political statement because we're about to enter the third year? Whether we like it or not, political campaigns will start unofficially, and we'll start getting a lot more political statements, a lot more propaganda. And then when you also put this at the back of your mind that even some of the existing hospitals are having problems dealing with basic utilities like water, like power, what exactly is the plan here? Because it's one thing to come out and announce 8,800 primary healthcare centers. Will there be doctors there full time? And remember that some of these healthcare centers are located in very rural areas. Do you have people who will work there, who will agree to live there and do the work? How about providing basic drugs, basic medicines? What is the plan for that? So there are many questions that arise out of this announcement. I'm not convinced that there's a clear plan that can be identified or even interrogated. But let's just say that this is the announcement of some declaration, which is common or consistent with this administration. And let's see what happens in the months to come.
Let's see what happens in the months to come. Always a lot of questions concerning the issues. AB, do you want to answer one of the questions or ask another one of yours?
You know, we have 774 local governments. If we said, just for a start, that we want to have 3 fully functional health centers in each local government, we would only have 2,100 plus, or maybe 2,200. Why announce this 8,000 when even the 14 you have right now in Nigeria don't even get, or the however many we have right now, don't even get the budgetary funding they need to function properly? I just feel it's a waste of news time and space when the current existing medical facilities are not up to scratch. I'd even be more hopeful and excited if you said the current set of medical centers will be upgraded, you know, in honor to supplement this marvelous gift by the industrialists. It was a beautiful thing. He saw a way to leave a legacy. He took the means at his disposal. He actually noticed that an earlier audiovisual facility he had contributed was well maintained, and that encouraged him to add this trauma center. So kudos to the person, kudos to those who brought this project to fruition. But why announce 8,000? Is it just to make a headline that means absolutely nothing to the average Nigerian? That's the question I have to ask.
But it seemed like a very specific number, 8,880. Seemed like a very, very specific number. You know,
that's
when you think about it.
That's what in the rap game they call bars. 888. So what? Let's move.
All right, we move on to our next story coming out of the Punch newspaper, and it has to do with our ambassadors. Yes, the federal government is vetting potential candidates to fill diplomatic roles in its 109 missions, 76 embassies, 22 high commissions, and 11 global consulates, according to the Punch. Now, impeccable sources with the developments reveal that the former Minister of Aviation under the Obasanjo administration, Mr. Femi Fani-Kayode, and a former Deputy Governor of Lagos State, Femi Pedro, are among the nominees. Okay, so after such a long wait and a lot of questions back and forth, the screening for potential candidates to fill in diplomatic roles is currently underway, with some names being bandied around here. Maybe I'll let you get your thoughts in on that one. But one thing that actually comes to mind with this particular issue when it comes to our diplomats and so on and so forth is the funding issue that has actually been highlighted, that particular sector hasn't been funded properly, and it's a problem for Nigeria. AB, so what do you think about this, and where does this leave us as a country?
On a lighter note, I want to wonder, this screening, is this why we didn't see you for some days on the morning show, Ayo? That's on a lighter note. Anyway, back to the real story. To the real story. Now, they said that one thing that has stood in the way of us maintaining and running a diplomatic presence around the world has been funding. I disagree. It has been lack of ability to prioritize and further a lack of ability to manage projects. You see, whether you like it or not, the world is a patchwork of relationships where a responsible country would say, these are our primary trading partners, these are the markets we seek to, make breakthroughs into, and I'm talking about the three minimal baskets you can put these countries into. And you cannot say until you're able to fulfill all the requirements in all the countries, literally at all the same time, you will maintain no diplomatic presence. That is irresponsible. And that is what we have been for the past 2 odd years. But I will be quick to say that the rot in a diplomatic sector did not start with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration. It started in the prior administration, where the irresponsibility of the former president was on full display. That said, you came in, well, he said he was going to continue what was done before him, so I shouldn't be surprised. But setting that aside, I believe he was more urbane, more exposed to the world, and understands the importance of diplomatic presence. So if they say, like the story says, that many utilities were not, outstanding in those places, the offices, the rent is not, paid, the vehicles are moribund and all, then you set up a project where you selectively take on what I would consider the priority countries. You have presence in where we have biggest trade. You can use metrics. Where do we have our greatest trade? And start there, because that's maybe where you get the most inquiries. Then you also look beyond where you have your current biggest trade and say, where are these areas where you can build on what you have? So for us to sit down all the time, sitting on our thumb saying, oh, wow, we have no funds, was irresponsible and actually backward. Now we say we're about to, nominate some ambassadors, them Ayo and Co. Now, there's a policy that the president has pursued. 4 Ds: democracy, development, demography, and diaspora. On a lighter note, the number one candidate or citizen of Nigeria who has operated in diaspora is the president. He's always in a foreign country doing something or the other. Like right now, he's in France. So have we been pursuing those 4 Ds in a convincing manner? Without our diplomatic presence, have we been able to market those 4 Ds? I would argue the answer is no. So I'm hopeful that this process, where the people are supposed to go to the nearest SSS office near them to get screened, to know, their background. It's a very important thing, because you don't want to send somebody to a country that puts your country, because that's the face of your country in that location. You don't want to send a person whose background can easily be seen as negative to the country. So they're doing the necessary screening, and I'm hoping now, I don't know. They say they've been budgeting for it, but has the budget now come up to is it 1 billion? I've been at $1 trillion that they need. And if 1 billion, thank you, only 1 billion. So hopefully, if we get that 1 billion or parts thereof, we can now start screening and deploying people. Again, there are 3 baskets: big trading partners, intended trading partners, and all the others. Now you can stratify it further, but I think those should be like 3 big areas that you look at, and you replace vehicles, you renovate the embassy buildings, you pay the arrears of the former people who were asked to come home, and get our diplomatic presence back in order. As much as we call ourselves the giant of Nigeria, when we don't have the diplomatic presence of the world, you rearrange those words. You remove giant of Africa, you remove the I, and rearrange the rest of the words, and you have the GNAT, G-N-A-T of Africa. We must be seen on the world stage. Okay, otherwise, so we're the gnats of Africa.
Okay, thank you, Ibi. Let me quickly jump in on this, right? And from 2 perspectives. One, even where funding has been made available in the past, we're not sure how it has been utilized. There was a report over the weekend that Nigeria's permanent representative to the UN doesn't have a functional residence in New York, which is truly shocking. The report suggests that money was actually allocated and approved and disbursed, but there is a problem. The contractor says he hasn't been mobilized. Investigations have started. Now, to the second point, what screening are they actually doing? The events of the last 4 or 5 years clearly show that there is a very big question mark about the sort of screening we supposedly do in Nigeria. So we've had people come out for office. You don't know anything about their past. You can't establish where they've been at any point in their lives. And then you are told that they were screened and approved. Then you look at some of the people being nominated or whose names are being suggested as being nominated. And it begs the question, are we truly a serious nation? Because the whole world will, and we must remember something. You can approve someone here. He gets to the host country and he's rejected. So it's like a visa, it's not automatic. So if we want to waste our time faffing around and selecting the wrong ones, good luck to us. When they are rejected in the countries they're sent to, nobody should act surprised.
Alrighty, let me take a message or two before I come back to you, Mr. C. This is Steve Ikelo in Maryland. He says, honestly, health centers in this country are mere glorified healthcare centers. Is that an intentional repetition? Anyways, he says, I cite my local government as an example. No water, no electricity, no drugs, no rooms for emergency situations. It's a pity. Michael Akirami says, on the trauma center, I believe it was a brain fudge moment. Was he even authorized to give that information? Why not collaborate with the organizers of the new trauma center to revamp other centers? Stop spewing fantasies, please. Alrighty, Mr. C, let's get back in talking about education. We are in the punch right now, and the Minister of Education, Olatunji Alausa, has called for the extension of the mandatory National Youth Service Corps scheme from 1 to 2 years. Now, Alausa stated this on Friday when the Director General of the NYSC Brigadier General Olakunle Naphew paid him a courtesy visit in his office in Abuja. According to statements posted on NYSC's official Facebook page, the minister also called for the expansion of the skill acquisition and entrepreneurship development training program content for core members. Mr. C, this is a scheme that has a lot of question marks attached to it, a lot of issues in terms of the last couple of years. Some have questioned whether it's still a relevant thing for our graduates to be doing now. The Minister of Education is, considering, oh, let's make it 2 years. I don't know if maybe he doesn't have too much on his plate to deal with than to be thinking about this. But you know what? That's just my thoughts. What are your thoughts on this, Mr. C?
Okay, thank you, Ayo. So when I saw the headline, I'm like, oh, here we go again. Another ridiculous comment, another ridiculous suggestion, another ridiculous proposed policy. Now, what is the NYC? It's a program that was started in the 70s after the Civil War to reintegrate Nigerians and to sort of get them united. And this was started under the Gowon administration. Over the years, it's continued. And yes, it has had its benefits, its pros, but lately a lot of questions have started arising as to the continued viability or propriety of the program. Now, the only reason why millions or hundreds of thousands of Nigerians bother to do the NYC service here is because it is compulsory. Now, for some of them, it's a real drag on their time because they have to give 1 year or 10 months of their lives to a federal government that really and truly, in this very moment, doesn't fully deserve it. Now, the Minister of Education is proposing that it be extended to 2 years. Now, what's his rationale for this? That they will gain more substantial skills and experiences. Now, let's look at funding, for example. We had a situation where a new allowance was announced last year, and we understand they just started paying. Look at the backlog from universities, because not everyone gets to go to service year the same year. Some people have to wait. Already they're doing 3 batches a year. Now, when you say you want to keep them for 2 years, 2 years doing what precisely? What if I don't want to learn? What if I don't want any experience per se? Because the experiences you're talking about, NYSC skill acquisition and entrepreneurship development training program, Some people are not cut out to be entrepreneurs, Ayo. They're cut out for 9 to 5. They just like that defined structure where they know on a certain date in the month they get a salary alert through their bank accounts and they're good, and you look to grow through the system and retire. So some people want to work for established banks, fintech firms, established oil and gas firms, established companies in the fast-moving consumer goods sector. Not everyone wants to be an individual boss, choosing his own schedule and choosing his own timetable. Now, how is this going to work practically? Because when it starts, the first batch gets in for 2 years. The following, because Nigerian universities churn out graduates every year. Some universities churn out graduates twice a year because they're running a backlog program. So when you start, let's assume it starts next year, right? So I'm presuming the guys in 2025 get into the program and they will run for 2 years, meaning they will pass out in 2027. What happens to the graduates in 2026? Do they wait until 2027 to enter? If they're not waiting, how does that work? And if they have to wait, remember that most companies will not take on new hires without having completed the National Youth Service program and obtaining the certificates. Right. If you then say they should get internships, will those internships be paid? So there are a lot of questions here. Again, this is a similar statement from another government official. It's not clear what the roadmap is towards achieving this supposed policy program. And it really begs the question, should we be extending it or should we be making it optional? I would argue that rather than scrap it completely, make it optional. Those who want to do the NYC program, please proceed and do it. If you don't want to do it, it shouldn't be held against you. Remember that there are parts of Nigeria that are not safe to go to or safe to live in. There was a crisis in Plateau a few days back. Hundreds of Nigerians lost their lives. Between 50 and 100 Nigerians lost their lives. Now, I know for a fact that certain Nigerians are rejecting postings to certain states, and it's beginning to defeat the whole intention behind the founding or establishment of the program. So maybe we need to go back to the drawing board, review the program, make it optional for those who want to do it, so that once you get in, you can't decline a posting. And if you don't want to do it, off, fair and fine. But I'm not sure how this is going to be achieved. I'm not sure we should be chasing it. I'm thinking more that this program he wants them to learn from, can't it be more enhanced, more impactful doing that initial service here? What is the guarantee that anything will be learned in the extra year? My thoughts.
I just want to add that maybe the minister thinks that this current Gen Z have brain learning deficiencies like some of us older people. These new people can learn in 6 months what it would take us 1 year to learn. So he should not use that as an excuse for extending it. He does not need to add an extra year to the current set of people. They learn on the go, electronically, fast and neat. Forget that idea. I think it came from some bad dream.
Okay, let me take a couple of messages. This is Rexy in Surulere, and he says, I can't wait for 2027 when AB and Mr. C will finally, I guess, run to run. I'm not sure what you mean there. This country with the type of simplistic clarity they espouse here, so we can be asking 1,000 pessimistic questions about everything that they suggest. Well, bold of you to assume that that is someplace that they would want to be anyway. Let me see here. Who else is talking to us? This is Ibrahim Zakaria, and he says, please help remind the Commission of Health that the healthcare center in Jakande Estate, Ipaja, is still at an uncompleted state 8 years down the line. I reside there. You may come to confirm this. I feel so ashamed of this APC government. Okay, let me take one more before we get back into the stories. Gilbert Musa says, on the establishment of new primary healthcare centers, Mr. C and AB said it all. The existing ones are currently in a dilapidated state. The focus should be on upgrading the existing facilities. All right, let's get back into stories. AB, let's get into the Vanguard. And I'm going to talk about Dr. Tope Fashour here, the special advisor to President Tinubu on Economic Affairs, who highlighted the complexities of poverty measurement while defending the value of the naira in local terms, comparing the cost of living in Nigeria with that of the United States. Now, he was speaking on the Micon podcast with Shewa Kibaloye, and now he argued that many Nigerians misunderstand the concept of multidimensional poverty, which is often used in global poverty indices. Talking about $1 being 1,500 naira, which is a lot of money for a number of people in Nigeria. Saying that $10 won't buy you lunch anywhere in the US, and so on and so forth. Are these metrics that should be used to measure where we are in terms of the level of poverty and so on and so forth here in Nigeria? Does it make any sense going down that route?
I want to first of all start by scolding the Vanguard. They talked about if you are not going to eat in some eyebrow places, either the Vanguard has an H factor problem or they don't know how to spell. It is highbrow, not I, as in I over my eyebrow places. But back to the real story. Tokwe Fashua is actually right to the extent that $1 can get you, your average bole and fish meal in Nigeria, and almost the smallest burger meal in America would start from around $5 odd, and that's when it's on promo. Normally, it's closer to $9, $10. So he's right. So I ask, if he's so aware of that, is it not the same type of government he's serving that now tells us that in America they spend X and Y on petrol? Therefore, we cannot subsidize. You cannot have it both ways. If you recognize and accept that it costs much more in another country to pay for the service because of their context and cost of living, then you must similarly recognize that since we don't spend that much in our own life, we cannot spend the same thing on electricity. We should not be spending the same thing on petrol. We should not be spending the same thing on any other thing. He's right about the fact that the relative, what's that thing? There's a word for it. There's a term where you compare this cost of living in different parts of the world. It skips me now, but he is making an argument that he cannot defend if he's questioned from the other side. Yes, you can get a meal, just something to hold yourself for 1,005 in Nigeria, which would be $1 in America, which I can promise you cannot get literally anything in America. But that means, therefore, that as a people, we should not be being compared in terms of what we spend for the other things, unless you are talking about everything, like you say, we're removing the subsidy on petroleum. Petroleum that comes from our soil here, we should be able to refine it here and provide it cheaply for ourselves here. I've used this example before, and I hope it makes sense right now. And I'll round up with this. I am an architect. If I am doing a design for you, Ayo, or you, Mr. C, I will charge you market value. You will pay me for my service. Just like if I'm getting a voiceover from you, Ayo, or asking you for a law brief, Mr. C, both of you will charge me appropriately. However, to design my own house with my own skill, I will not be expecting to spend the money I would charge you. Similarly, Mr. C, you will walk into a law court and you will do whatever you need to do. You're not paying yourself. So we cannot say we are subsidizing ourselves in Nigeria with the oil that is under our own land. If we're selling it in the international market, of course, we should charge international prices. But you cannot make the excuse that in America, it takes $10 to eat a meal. In Nigeria, it takes $1 to eat equivalent of $1 to eat a meal. But then in the same voice, say I should pay what they pay in America for fuel or for electricity without making the same accommodation for me. So I'm afraid while he's right on the facts, he's missing the whole point and context.
All right, thank you for that, AB. Let me just run through a couple of messages here really, really quickly. This is who's sending this message in. Okay, there's no name attached to it, but it says it's important to remember that a political party that wins an election will naturally appoint members from within its ranks. This is standard practice, not a new development by this government. Let's avoid blowing it out of proportion. Fact only. Nobody's arguing that. But even if they do decide to appoint members from within their ranks who are not fit to do the job, then it's something to blow out of proportion because it affects everybody at the end of the day. Just saying, facts only. Let me take another one here. This is Tonya from Lagos Metropolis, and he says, are all youth corps members currently enjoying the new stipend rate of 77,000 naira? If they cannot fund 1 year effectively, where's the funding for 2 years coming from? Pointless statement from an ineffective minister. Who was talking to Ian? Ian, come on. I won't do that. I won't do that. No, no. I won't say that on air. I refuse. Jayelonilua says, it's another ridiculous suggestion from the Minister of Education to extend the duration of the NYC service to 2 years, even as the popular opinion now is that the scheme be scrapped or turned into a purely military service. Okay. This is another one here. Who's this from? I think it's Tolu or something, if I'm correct. It says, for Mr. C's question, the NYC scheme will run concurrently for the new time suggested, but this is not to mean that I'm supporting the idea. All right. This is Lara from Lekki says, I beg you, it's just budget allocation that is making him say 2 years. Okay. Shola says, you can get a meal for 1,500 naira in Nigeria, perhaps snacks, but not a meal by any means.
Of
Okay.
course not. Even the example he gave was bole and fish, not a real meal.
True that. Arthur says, Mr. Ayabeg, where will you see the food of 1,005? Share me the plug, I beg. Well, I'm also looking for the plug, in case anybody finds
That's why
it.
talk by Fashua. He was just making statements without really thinking of the context, in my view.
Damilola from Lagos Island says, AB, crude oil is a global commodity with global pricing. Any distortion locally in Nigeria would simply amount to creating a new smuggling market for crude oil. This is not architecture. I see.
You are not understanding, Mr. Writer. Again, what is ours should be to our benefit. I have not said we should not sell it at the global price, but since it's ours, listen, if I am doing services for myself, I will not charge myself, but I will charge you, Writer. I will charge you well.
Okay, so let me just quickly drop this, right? Whilst we keep on going round and round in circles, confusing ourselves, it costs $10 to extract a barrel of crude oil in Saudi Arabia. In Nigeria, it is $40. Until we know the reason why, we'll continue to run round in circles.
Thank you.
All right.
Inefficiencies.
Let me take one more. Jerry says, the meal you get for 1,500 here is roadside. Take note, you can't walk into any cheap eatery and eat food that has meat good enough to fill an average man for 1,500. All right,
He's
thank
correct.
you, Jerry.
Talk by Fashua was speaking out of turn.
All right, thank you for all the messages. Thank you so much, AB, and of course, Mrs. C, for joining me on a Monday morning. Hope you have a great start to your day and, of course, the week as well.
I wish you guys a wonderful week ahead, and to all of the wonderful listeners, including the ones who cannot get 1,500 naira food, and Ayo, the upcoming ambassador. Have a wonderful week ahead.
All right, Mr. C.
Okay, so thanks, everyone. I wish everyone peace, fruitfulness, and profitability this week. Go out and succeed.
Peace, fruitfulness, and profitability. Seize it. The day definitely is yours. Keep it tuned to the Smooth Breakfast on Smooth 98.1 at 8:15. It's all about the sporting action and the sporting world in the locker room.
Are you